They say the smallest things can hold the biggest stories, and that's never been truer than with the 1962 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it looks ordinary. A dull silver gray coin that's been in countless pockets, vending machines, and coffee jars over 6 decades. But what if I told you that a single 1962 nickel, yes, the same one you might overlook, once sold for over $13,000? It's a quiet coin with a hidden legacy, a bridge between the silver past and the modern era, and one of the most deceptively valuable nickels you could ever hold in your hand. Let's rewind the clock to 1962. John F. Kennedy was president, Elvis Presley was topping the charts, and the U.S. Mint was still producing nickels made of the same durable alloy used since 1946, 75% copper, 25% nickel. The Jefferson design had already been around for over 2 decades, and the Mint was preparing for major changes that would arrive just a couple of years later. But in 1962, something interesting happened. Production soared. The Mint struck 97 million nickels in Philadelphia and an astonishing 280 million in Denver. That's a lot of coins. Yet, not all nickels are created equal. And hidden among those hundreds of millions are coins so perfect, so flawless, or so flawed in just the right way, that they've become legends in the collecting world. You see, 1962 was one of those transitional years where the Mint's die polishing and striking techniques were inconsistent. Some coins came out with weak details, Jefferson's hair and the steps of Monticello looking almost melted. Others, however, were razor-sharp, with crisp edges and mirror-like fields. Those exceptional examples are what collectors call full steps nickels, and they're the key to big money. To qualify as full steps, the 5 or 6 steps on Monticello's staircase must be completely visible, uninterrupted, and sharply struck. It sounds simple, but out of millions of coins, only a tiny fraction meet that standard, especially for older issues like 1962. That's why high-grade 1962 D full steps nickels are so valuable. In fact, a 1962 D Jefferson nickel with full steps, graded MS-67 by PCGS, sold for $13,200 at auction. That's right, a 5-cent coin turned into a 5-figure treasure, all because of pristine detail and immaculate preservation. But there's more to this story than perfect coins. Errors and varieties from 1962 are equally thrilling to collectors. Some nickels from that year were struck from overused dies, creating what's known as die fatigue, where the design becomes stretched or slightly doubled. Others feature repunched mint marks, especially from the Denver Mint. Small but noticeable anomalies where the D was stamped more than once in slightly different positions. Those tiny imperfections, invisible to most people, are exactly what makes coin hunters' hearts race. A repunched D mint mark on a 1962 nickel can bring in $50 to $200 depending on clarity and grade. And if it's paired with full steps or mint luster, that number climbs fast. Then there's the proof version, minted in Philadelphia. Coins made specifically for collectors, struck multiple times from mirror-like surfaces. The 1962 proof set is one of the most elegant of the early 60s, featuring deep cameo contrast and a sharp Jefferson portrait that almost seems to glow. While most proof nickels from that year sell for $3 to $5, top-graded examples with deep cameo designation can fetch several $100s. And here's where the 1962 nickel becomes truly fascinating. It sits on the timeline just before the silver coinage crisis of 1965. That means it's one of the last old world nickels before the Mint began shifting to higher speed, mass production methods that often reduce quality. Every 1962 nickel, even the worn ones, carries that pre-modern craftsmanship. Heavier, sharper, and often with a richer metallic tone. If you've got an old jar of change from your parents or grandparents, there's a good chance a 1962 nickel is in there, quietly waiting. Most of them are worth only face value, sure, but it's the hunt that matters. Because that one coin, with perfect steps or a quirky mint mark, could turn out to be a small fortune in disguise. Collectors often say that the Jefferson series is one of the most overlooked in American coinage, and yet it's full of mysteries. The 1962 issue, especially, is a reminder that beauty and value don't always scream for attention. Sometimes they whisper. Imagine holding one in uncirculated condition, the way it left the press more than 60 years ago. Its shine untouched, its details crisp, the small D under the date perfectly punched. That's a piece of mid-century America frozen in time. The hands that made it are long gone, the machines replaced, but the coin still gleams as if struck yesterday. There's something poetic about that. The 1962 nickel may not be flashy like silver dimes or golden commemoratives, but it's a survivor. It's a coin that represents the everyday America of its time. The coffee counters, payphones, jukeboxes, and bus fares of a country on the edge of change. Today, collectors chase those mint-state examples with quiet passion. They know how rare it is to find one with both luster and full steps intact. They know that even the smallest flaw, a single nick or dull patch, can separate a $5 coin from a $5,000 one. And maybe that's the real magic behind the 1962 nickel. It's not just about the metal or the grade or even the auction price. It's about the journey that coin has taken. Think about it. Every scratch, every worn edge tells a story. Maybe it bought a cup of coffee in 1965. Maybe it jingled in the pocket of a factory worker or sat forgotten in a desk drawer since the summer of 1972. These coins have lived through generations, passed from hand to hand, from one era to the next, carrying quiet memories of a simpler America. When collectors find one in pristine condition, untouched by time, it's almost like discovering a time capsule. The coin doesn't just show Jefferson's face. It reflects the story of American progress, craftsmanship, and endurance. That's why numismatists cherish these small treasures. They're not only pieces of currency, they're pieces of continuity. And the 1962 nickel, in particular, holds a special charm. It's old enough to have character, but not so ancient that it feels out of reach. It sits right in that sweet spot, familiar, yet full of mystery. It reminds us that there's still undiscovered value in everyday places. That treasure doesn't always glitter. Sometimes it hums quietly in nickel and copper. So, maybe tonight, when you're rolling coins or checking your change, take a second look. Feel the weight of that little piece of metal between your fingers. Check the date. 1962 might just be staring back at you. And who knows? Maybe it's one of the few perfect ones. Maybe it's been waiting 60 years for someone who would finally see it for what it really is, a survivor, a relic, and a hidden gem in plain sight. Because in the world of rare coins, the greatest discoveries often start with the simplest question: what if this one is special?